Good evening. So we're here for the Finance Committee meeting for Tuesday, June 22nd, 2021. Actually, why don't we go around the table? Phil, starting with you, and introduce yourself, please.
Sure. Phil Landry, Finance Committee.
Sandy Kuipers, Finance Committee.
Carol Gogolinski, Finance Committee.
Howard D'Amico, Finance Committee.
Lynn Mazzulli, Finance Committee.
Heather Moran, Finance Committee.
Dick Vandenberg, Finance Committee.
And a guest present via Zoom.
Matt Wojcik, Town Administrator.
Okay. So.
Hi, Matt.
All right, so I had originally thought that we were going to have a presentation from maybe the school committee or people from the school board tonight, but we're not going to do that. So with that off of the agenda, the next item on the agenda, certainly I'm seeing a little bit of pressure anyway from Suzanne, God bless her, to do the reorganization. So we should now move to appoint our officers for the next fiscal year. And so why don't we start with the office of president and see if we have any nominations for president?
Why don't we ask volunteers first?
No, I don't
Can't
like that.
volunteers?
No.
Okay.
We're just going to nominate who we
All
want.
right, then I'll
Howard's
nominate
chair.
Howard.
No.
Yeah, I nominate Howard
No.
too.
No, wait, this is the part where
So why
Howard
don't we ask
unloads this
volunteers?
duty
No.
and finds a
unloading at
worthy
all.
candidate.
Not
You
unloading
had
at
a
all.
chance to have
So-
somebody else volunteer.
I missed that.
You
You're right,
did.
Carol. So Dick, do we have any volunteers, Dick?
I'm ready to volunteer if the group's up for it.
Yeah,
So
there you go. How's that? How's that? Good,
Okay, that's
I
right?
defer to the group. So I know Sandy said she was interested.
Anyone else
was
want to
that?
volunteer? No, Phil. So the nominations are closed, and so why don't we now vote? All those in favor of Dick to be the new Finance Committee Chair, please vote. Well, we're going to do a voice vote all the way around, starting with Phil.
Phil Landry, aye.
Sandy Kuipers, aye.
Carol Gogolinski, aye.
Howard D'Amico, aye.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Heather Moran, aye.
I gave you $20.
Wait a minute.
That's before-
So you're saying there was a bribe? Did everybody get that on tape? I just want to make sure.
But not after.
There was a bribe, there's some kind of thing going on here.
I guess I vote aye too.
Okay, so unanimously, Dick Vandenberg is going to be our new, is our new chair.
Effective when?
Immediately.
Oh, okay.
And with that, I swap out the chair,
Yes.
Oh,
right?
Really?
okay.
That's right.
That's how it
Right?
works.
So I get to sit up there.
Yes.
Maybe.
That's your,
Okay.
Peace and prosperity, everybody.
Oh, it feels so much lighter already.
Phil
Like,
likes it.
yeah.
Phil likes it a lot.
kidding me? It's like, wow. The tyranny. Oh,
That's right.
all the tyranny.
now we need a vice.
That's right.
Yeah, so anybody volunteer to be the vice chair, which means
Carol,
you
No, I'm not
you
volunteering
chair
for
when the
anything.
chair is absent and
Sandy.
things like that.
I'll volunteer.
You volunteering,
Yeah,
Sandy?
right.
Anybody else volunteer?
I will nominate Sandy.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, somebody want to second that nomination?
Second.
Okay, so let's have a vote. All in favor of Sandy, we'll go around the table. Start with you, Lynn.
Aye. Lynn Mazzulli.
Heather Moran, aye.
Howard D'Amico, aye.
Phil Landry, aye.
Sandy Kuipers, aye.
Carol Gogolinski, aye.
Dick Vandenberg, aye. Sandy, welcome.
Yes, thank you.
You get your own parking place now.
That's right.
Oh, the benefits.
And you double your salary.
Perks are outstanding.
I thought it was 3 times now.
Matthew, do you believe we need to go backwards and have an actual move to nominate Dick as chair, a second, and then a vote? Or are you satisfied with the procedure we did?
Look, we all love formality, but in this case, it's not going to change the outcome, so what you've done is fine.
Okay,
The best
thank you. Okay.
Is that you, Carol?
Sorry.
Oh, Carol.
That's town council
Shut that
calling
off.
Carol.
Nope, that's not
saying,
me.
Okay, so the next thing on our agenda is vote to authorize members to sign and approve payroll and expense vouchers, which I think are
I
there.
had a meeting. I'll call you later,
Can
okay?
you just, can you give us a little summary there, Lynn, of what that is?
Oh,
Walk
office.
Request for transfer from the reserve fund to economic development, the amount of $1,650. And that's really all it says.
Just one?
Yeah, just
think
the,
that's all.
yep, economic development.
Matt, do you know any of the background to this? Gene's not here. Can you speak to that a little bit or not?
You guys skipped the authorization to sign?
We haven't voted yet on it.
No,
You haven't voted on that yet.
right.
So that item in the folder is a reserve fund transfer, which is a distinct agenda item.
You're right. And is that just sort of normal for this time of the year, would you say?
What, reserve fund transfer?
Yeah, this one?
Yeah, so your reserve fund is there for emergencies or unanticipated expenses that arrive too late for us to resolve at fall town meeting
Right.
and Springtown meeting. So really, from the beginning of May to the end of June, if there are items that come up that we need to resolve, and we know we have the resources to do so, we ask you for a reserve fund transfer. The effort to get the MassWorks grant applied for on time was really substantial. It was many pages of data, and there were word and character limitations. So our economic development facilitator worked many, many hours to massage and improve and, version control this really extensive grant application, in addition to the other expectations of his role, which include facilitating meetings with developers that are looking to get various forms of regulatory approvals in town. So he's gone slightly over his allocated budget for the year for his compensation. So we're asking for about $1,650 to close the year. I think that's, Jean, you know how Jean operates, right? It's a little rich. She doesn't want to fall short. So we're probably not going to spend the whole $1,650, but we certainly need just about 2.5, 3 weeks worth of payroll for this 17.5-hour-a-week position to finish the year.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any comments or questions on that?
These are grants that are doing what for economic development? What are we writing them for?
So and I actually invite anyone who serves on the senior town board, like the select board or FinCom, to visit the website. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts has created a website called the One Stop for Growth, and by filing an application, which has many, many questions about the town, its economic plans, blah, 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 you can apply for many grants at the same time, and it is up to the evaluators to move your grant into the proper program and see if you are competitive enough to win funding. MassWorks in particular is an infrastructure support grant that is designed to build out core utilities, including water, sewer, electric, natural gas, to potential economic development sites to make them more attractive to developers, and to prevent the necessity for municipalities to do tax increment financing or other means of incentives on their own local budget. So this grant program, I think our final application was close to $5 million to extend and improve water service all along the North Street to Gilboa Street, from Gilboa Street to the town border with Uxbridge, and then across the border to include the Tri-Town development on the lot that's on the other side of 146. There is a portion of Douglas that's there. So that's what we applied for, and the match would be substantial. It would be almost 20%, 50% match is being made by the private parties. So the town is not on the hook for the match itself. We are on the hook for some of the engineering that occurred in the early part of the process to spec out the grant. So we're optimistic that we have a really good chance. We had a professional consultant. We utilized a long time ago, town meeting approved an economic development fund, I think it was about $7,000 to support consulting. And it was probably, I think, my first town meeting in 2017, a fall town meeting, where we asked for those funds to be renewed. But I expressed at the time that I didn't think that the existing consultant was really all that, and that we had anything in the pipeline that was strong enough. But it would be good to have the flexibility to have that money. Town meeting did approve the money. We never spent it on anything. And then when it came into this effort, so we have April Anderson of Anderson Consulting helping Bob Manerick get this thing across the pipeline, across the finish line. MassWorks, if you want to look at examples that are very close by, MassWorks was used to fund the infrastructure build-out supporting the Campanelli Business Park at the junction of 16 and 146. And there were also MassWorks funds utilized to support development in the town of Sutton. You'll notice at the end of, that's not Huff Road, what's the next road over, where Prime Metals built out a new facility.
Gilmore Court?
That too
Gilmore.
was MassWorks
Gilmore
funded. So
Drive.
they've been very active in our area. They're interested in Worcester County. Obviously, we have Route 146 is the appeal to the state.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
Long-winded answer to your question.
It was a good answer, Matt. I give you an A for that one. Thank you.
So I'm actually looking at our agenda. I think I got things a little bit out of order. The next thing on the agenda says vote to authorize members to sign approved payroll and expense vouchers. The reserve fund transfer isn't until a couple things later, which is this one. But Howard, what is that vote to authorize members to sign and approve? Do we have to?
I come in and sign the payroll, like the notes keeper for Farmington Com.
Okay, that would be you.
I do that. I come in whenever Jean calls. I come over and sign.
Okay, so we need a motion then to authorize Lynn to be that person.
Heather.
Sorry. Lynn's right on my left here.
Why not, Lynn?
Anybody ready to make?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, anyone second it?
Can we just clarify before, I'm trying to, you sign paychecks? What are we signing?
I sign the time card. I validate the time for the person who takes the notes.
Oh, you mean the note taker?
Yes.
Here, for the, okay.
And you've been doing it.
Thank you.
now for a while,
Yep.
right? Okay.
Existing.
So Howard made the motion.
I'll second it. Yeah, Lynn
Lynn's
can
got the
second, sure.
So all in favor of Heather being our representative to sign things, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. I think you get your own parking place too.
Right?
And I
Yes.
think you need an alternate too as well.
Did we have an alternate?
Yes, I think Lynn was my alternate too. So I nominate Lynn.
Okay.
I second that nomination.
Any discussion?
No.
All right. All in favor of Lynn being the backup to Heather signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, Lynn. Congratulations.
Do I get my own
Wow.
parking place
Easy
too?
bus.
All right.
2 parking places for the alternate.
I want benefits too.
Yep. Pay your own insurance.
Matt, the next thing on the agenda says fiscal 21 expense/payroll expenditures. Is there something we need to vote on for that, or is that an informational item?
I'm not so sure why Jean has that on there. Actually did produce some of your minutes, and I believe I may have signed that so that she would get paid.
Okay.
So normally you would, when in your busy meeting season, you would be meeting regularly and you would be able to sign this time card to verify the minutes were done to your satisfaction,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. She's been playing catch up, so, she turned in the work and so I signed the card.
So we don't need to act on that item on the
I
agenda?
don't believe so.
Okay. All right, so the next thing on the agenda is the reserve fund transfer, which we've talked about. Any more discussion on that? All right, can somebody make a motion then that we approve the reserve fund transfer?
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Lynn.
I think I
Second.
should say what it is.
Heather seconds. Yeah, so it's for economic development. Amount requested is $1,650, and we heard the description of that from our town administrator. So, everybody ready to vote?
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. So we all need to sign this then, is that right?
I
Just
think
kind
that's
of in the
the one.
margin?
Yeah,
Something
right.
like that?
Yeah, we'll
Right.
Do we initial it?
Be careful how we say it, because the woman's taking the thing, she's just looking at, so she's trying to write it down, but if we don't have it there, she's not hearing it. So we gotta be specific.
Right, okay, thank you, Carol. All right, so I guess I'll sign it and then we initial it,
Yeah,
is
I
that right?
think the rest of us just initial.
All right, I will pass that around.
Are there 3 originals?
Yes.
Yeah.
2 for,
Is that FinCom on the top?
yeah.
And 2 for us and 1 for selection. So Howard, when you write your memoirs, how big a section will your finance committee part be in that?
Volume 1, 2, and 3. Yes.
And when they do the TV miniseries, who do you want to play you? I guess that's.
Who is that? Brad Pitt.
Okay.
I've got this.
All right, Matt, you are up. Update.
You may
from
not
town
want to pick that
administrator.
person.
You're the next.
Well, I don't want to keep you long. You were all at the town meeting, and most of you either were there present, or hopefully you've watched it and seen where we've ended up. It has been a very busy spring. We are trying to make sure we participate successfully in the federal program to support the economic revitalization of the country after the lockdown. We received our first payment of American Rescue Plan funds, so-called ARPA funds. And just so everybody understands, when we add it all up, it's going to come up to just about $2.2 million. And it's coming from 2 aspects of the legislation. The first aspect is direct aid from the United States Department of Treasury to non-entitlement communities. So in other words, the town of Douglas doesn't receive any community development block grants or other federal funds as a matter of entitlement. So those were distributed directly to municipalities, and that's a little bit less than half of our allocation. The second source of funding to the smaller municipalities in Massachusetts, most of Massachusetts, is coming from the federal government's decision to allocate many of these funds by county. And in Massachusetts, many of our counties are not functioning. So, or were just abolished. So for those municipalities that are within a non-functioning county, funds were allocated on a per capita basis. So these funds will be received over the next calendar year in different tranches. And I expect we'll get like 4 different infusions of cash. And they must be spent by December 31st, 2024 on eligible expenses. And that's the really important caveat. There are 4 areas where we can spend the money. Revenue replacement, COVID-related expenses, which we wouldn't use because we still have CARES Act funds left. So really, the program that we're going to take advantage of will be infrastructure, specifically called out in the legislation: water, wastewater, and improvements to access to broadband. And really, for us, it's water and wastewater. So that's good news in the sense that, we know we have assets around the town that the Water and Sewer Commission, Water Wastewater Commission doesn't really have the routine earnings necessary to take on, but we might be able to make a substantial impact in the longevity of the asset by either revitalizing existing pipe or in some cases maybe extending the pipe to support various functions. Just because you say water and wastewater doesn't mean every single conceivable water or wastewater project would qualify for the funds. There's a statutory reference to the Clean Water Revolving Fund, and those projects that are eligible for the Clean Water Revolving Fund are eligible for the use of ARPA funds. So originally, my intention was, well, I think this is going to be a blank check, and we'll form a committee, and we'll try to parse out how we're going to use these funds for the long-term good of the town. Really, because of eligibility rules, it's going to be a very narrow focus. And our primary conversation will be with the water commissioners and with FinCom in preparation for town meeting. These grant funds, typically, grant funds do not require further appropriation. They typically come into the town and are spent without town meeting approval because they're grants. And that works that way in a variety of things, whether it's grant funds that the fire department gets or police department, when the police department gets a share of judgment against people who deal with drugs, for instance, that drug enforcement money comes back to the police department. The chief has wide discretion to spend the funds. I envision a more transparent process where, at a minimum, representative boards are informed and take a vote to support the decisions made by the people who are requesting use of the funds. So that, together with MassWorks and finishing up our CARES Act, we still have some eligible expenses that we're going to push through using outside grant funds. That includes finishing up the e-permitting effort. So we're going to extend electronic permitting to the Planning Board, the Conservation Commission, and the Zoning Board. So now applicants will be able to log in online and fill out their application and track the progress of their application via internet connection, which COVID taught us a lot of people are very willing to do. It is a convenience to folks, and it also helps us manage paperwork because there's this electronic record. And if you haven't finished your checklist and your application isn't complete, it won't progress to the next step. Implementing that, I have to get that done by December 31st, and as you know, it's June 22nd. So I'm looking to get staffed up in that office who can shepherd this through. Community development is one of 3 positions that I've had to advertise and try to fill. They are all budgeted. So they were all things that you have seen in the budget and that town meeting voted. Suzanne's replacement in the Board of Selectmen's office will be the current occupant of the clerk position at the fire department, Lisa Freeman. So Lisa's going to come over and do that job. So her position became open, was advertised. We had a pool of 9 people and interviewed most of them and arrived at Lisa Camuso, who is the new clerk at the fire department. I made a decision after we were not successful getting either a planner or an engineer to apply for the community development director position, that at a bare minimum, we have to have full-time support staff in that office moving all these applications through. Because right now, it is a paper process, a labor-intensive process. It involves mailings to abutters, advertising public hearings, establishing agenda items for the board members to review in advance of their meetings. There's quite a bit of work that goes into it, and the one person who's in the part-time position has a lot of experience but doesn't have enough hours to possibly manage that entire process for 3 boards. So I advertised a clerk position, a principal clerk position, which will be on the same pay grade as Jackie Brakes, who is the principal clerk for building and zoning. And we got 3 applicants. We're still mulling over exactly who will get the first offer, but I'm confident saying that all 3 candidates were qualified for the position. So I'm quite certain that we will fill it within the next week or 2. Well, we'll have an accepted offer within a week or 2, and we'll fill it within the customary 2-week notice period for wherever they're working. The third position that will open up, there was a new position, part-time position in the Board of Health that was advertised, and one of our full-time staffers from the Board of Assessors applied for it in an internal process. So We filled the new position at the Board of Health, which again was in the budget, with someone who's, looking to downsize the amount of time they spend at work. So very shortly, within the next week or so, I'll be posting a full-time clerk position in the assessor's office. So what that fundamentally means is that, out of 7 or 8 clerks that work for the town and really do a huge amount of work to support the way the government works, of those, actually, I think it's closer to 8 or 9 people, we're replacing 5 of them. Some of them are shuffling around. They're learning new jobs. We're replacing about 5 of those positions in a very short period of time. So, we invite the public to be patient with us as we get everybody trained up. But so far, so good. Knock on wood. We've had more luck getting people interested in the day-to-day jobs than in the management position. Now, in the planning department, we really can't go without some professional assistance to do comments on subdivision applications. So for the time being, we have had a planner from the Central Massachusetts Regional Planning Commission, Ian McElwee, who was on contract. And that contract will expire June 30th. I'm pleased to say that we found a very highly qualified planner who many of you will remember Jim Purcell. Jim Purcell filled in for the town administrator position after Mike Kozinski left and during the recruitment process that I was part of. And Jim does that for lots of towns. There are also people who do that for planning departments, whose professional reputation is superior, and they are at a point in their life where they don't want to work for any one particular community. They want to work for 4 or 5 months at a time, establish processes and procedures and train personnel, and then move on to the next assignment. So I'm reviewing a proposal I received last week from a very accomplished planner, and really it's just a question of whether or not we can make all the economics work. I'm also confident that we will. So we will have some support for 10 hours a week at least in that office, reviewing plans and writing comments, and where necessary, assisting in writing decisions for those boards in the community development department. I suppose I can go on and on about what we've been busy about. I think those are the major things: grants and personnel. We are beginning the phase now of, this is the time of year when we try to execute the capital projects. So town meeting approved a new roof for the municipal center as well as a new generator. And we have a grant for the installation of electric charging stations for vehicles that will be in the parking lot of the municipal center. So those 3 projects need to be completed within the next 18 months. The charging station grant has a sunset. I have to obligate those funds within 6 months of approval. So I've got about 4 months left to get that done. I don't have to finish the project. I have to obligate the funds. On the generator for town hall, we are going to do this right. We are going to hire a design professional who will write out the specs and construction-ready plans, and that is what we will go out to bid for the construction portion of the project. So it's 2 phases. One will be design, which we hope will wrap up in a couple months, and then there will be the installation. The roof, I think, is we might be pushing it to think we're going to get it done this calendar year, maybe next year. So that's where we are. In terms of what you see, and this will be my last note, Mr. Chairman, in terms of the operating budget that was approved by town meeting, and many of you are familiar with from the budget process, you'll recall that property casualty insurance has been an annual concern, and the best thing for us to do is to shop it out, to put it out and see who would respond and want to be our carrier, or who would be our broker to pull together different carriers to give us a good plan. If you've been following the select board's meetings, you know that we have spent a good portion of the last 2 meetings trying to sort out the differences between these very complex coverage structures on the property and casualty side. We got a very professional presentation from Gallagher, which is one of the largest brokerages in the country. I think it's fair to say they may be the largest brokerage in the country. Looking to place most of our business with Travelers, and they picked a specialty carrier for our injured on duty coverage for our public safety personnel. And the incumbent has also expressed a desire for renewal, and that is MIA, the Massachusetts Municipal Association's self-insured entity, which places its insurance products through Cabot Risk, which is, again, a professional brokerage. It's been a tight competition. It's really, if I weren't a geek, I wouldn't be a town administrator, right? So I kind of like this because I think what we've done is we've educated a lot of people on what our insurance coverage is, where its limitations are, and what the marketplace looks like right now. So while the Gallagher presentation at the moment is more economically competitive, the MIA proposal has aspects that we are very used to working with, particularly when it comes to injured on duty. They placed our injured on duty coverage through Chubb, and Chubb has a superior plan design for municipal public safety. So that's what the board is weighing. They don't have all the time in the world. They have to decide. So they're going to decide on Tuesday, June 29th. There are members of FinCom with opinions. I would invite you to express them to the Board of Selectmen in advance of the 29th so they can have the benefit of your insight if you have anything to say about it. Just remember, this is like a 400,000 plus, and going up because we've done less than stellar job of preserving the assets of the town over the last 20 years. And some of those decisions are coming home to roost with significant repairs and claims. Up to this year, it was mostly on the school side. Unfortunately, this year, as you all recall, we had a significant fuel spill in the basement of the municipal center. There is an inquiry into the quality of the fuel that was sold to us by our vendor. However, at the time being, it is just a straight-up environmental spill claim. Our coverage is capped at $500,000. The costs of the cleanup are just about $500,000. And we're hoping that what little evidence we have that the oil may have penetrated into the groundwater, we hope that that was just a spot result and will not be a persistent result. So monitoring wells are in place in the basement. All those contaminated soil has been removed. And now we're just waiting for water samples to come back clean so that we can close the claim. But property casualty is very serious business. It really protects the town from massive financial shocks. And over time, though, if you have enough claims, your premiums will climb. And that's our experience. That's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
So
thank
I
you.
entertain any-
Anybody have any questions for Matt? Okay.
Two questions. You mentioned that when you're talking about the ARPA funds, you were talking about a functioning county and a non-functioning county. Are we residing in the functioning county or a non-functioning county here in Douglas?
So Worcester County no longer has any existence as a functioning government body.
Okay, so we're a non-functioning county, and funds were derived by total number of people in the town.
Correct.
Okay. You mentioned quite a bit of money going into water, wastewater, broadband, possibly with the ARPA funds. Is any of that able to offset some expenses we may have incurred before and maybe take some of that? And are we looking at roads? Remember we had a big to-do about the roads a couple of months ago? And about...
So the water fund and the wastewater fund are enterprise funds of the town that are managed by an elected group, the water commissioners. And it is what our financial reports term business-like operations. They are supposed to be charging rates that cover not only their operating expenses, but their long-term needs for maintenance, repair, and replacement or expansion of their asset. Over the past I really don't know when they started, but I know that for as long as I've been with you guys, for 4 years now, the water commissioners have used retained earnings from the enterprise funds for operations. So that would be, on the town side, that would be the equivalent of using free cash to fund the operation. So what I'm hoping that we can work out with the water commissioners is that we really want to allocate a lot of these funds to them, but we're hoping that by alleviating their long-term need to maintain their system, that there will be the opportunity to right the ship on their operating side of their budget. In other words, to stop using retained earnings for operations. They may still need to make a rate adjustment, but the good news would be that a lot of what they would have to save up for as a pressing project in the relatively near future, the town is in the position to help them fund it now and get the work done with federal funds that are not coming from the ratepayers. So that's a conversation that has not occurred yet, but I've already said behind a camera, a microphone, and board of selectmen meetings that would be a meeting that we want to have with that elected body so that we're all on the same page. Putting a couple $1 million into the existing infrastructure is a really big investment by the town.
Anything else, Phil?
No, so just the good stuff. Love the fact that we're gonna not be raising taxes on ratepayers or whatever because we have these funds, but like I said, because I keep going back to the roads, where are we at with that particular issue? I know we had talked about it a while back.
So, I wish I had better news when it comes to roads. As you know, we get about $360,000 a year in Chapter 90 funds. And for many years, the town of Douglas has had to use its Chapter 90 funds to support bridge replacement projects over the Mumford. And that includes the North Street Bridge most recently. And that's a really unfortunate thing because that pretty much takes all of their money. And the bad news is that we've had another significant structure begin to collapse. It's on Depot Street north, no, that would be actually be south of Town Hall on Depot Street. There is a historic stone culvert that takes water from one side of the street. It's actually an old mill raceway. If you're familiar with the property, there's a wooden barn close to the raceway, and the water goes under the street, and then it actually is the stream that flows behind the municipal center. After a heavy rainstorm, if you go out there, you can hear it out there. It ends up at that pond on Main Street with another dam, another waterfall, small waterfall that goes under Main Street and into the Mumford River. There's a culvert there, and in my more crass, cynical moments, I would say just let the damn thing fall down. But there's a sewer pipe that goes right through it, and it's a big one, and we cannot allow that sewer pipe to burst and contaminate the water. So we have to fix that. The engineers have been out there and been providing us with estimates for various construction methods to repair it. I think the cheapest we've seen is $440,000. Depending on what we get into when we start pulling the thing apart, we have to pull apart the broken stuff before we can rebuild it. Anywhere from $440,000 to over $800,000. That unfortunately is a claim against our stream of revenues that we wanted to use for streets. The town continues to certify, I'm not going to say certify. The town continues to deepen the trend of extensive turnbacks, revenue, positive excess revenues, and one-time revenues, the collection of which become free cash that will be certified in October. We're in a healthy position right now. Approaching year end, I'm confident that we will have another good year. Some of that is totally just a result of an auction of land. The sale of land approved by town meeting, we got as you know, we got $400,000 bid on the land on Gilboa Street, which we've accepted, and we're in the process of negotiating purchase and sales. So there's a healthy stream of those revenues coming into the town. How much will go into roads is going to depend on other demands for free cash. There are any number of interest groups or any number of entities across the town to which we could direct free cash for long-term stability of the town's financial condition. So, not to be cavalier about it, but if there's one entity that declines to participate in an appropriate program to get the finances of any given department on track, then we'll just move to the next thing, because the money's going to come from somewhere for all of this. So I'm hopeful that in addition to the crack sealing, which was a really important part of the strategy, pavement management strategy, is crack sealing. Crack sealing is affordable, and it also does a great deal of good towards prolonging the life of roadways that are already in pretty good condition, so we stabilize them where they are. And if you've been around town, you've noticed that the crack sealing teams have been out on Main Street and other places. We have pretty much met our year-to-year goal for crack sealing roads to stabilize some of our more important roadways. And we've identified 5 or 6 segments of roads. I would really like, hoping that the culvert thing works out on Depot Street where it's a lesser expense. And I'm hoping, Phil, to put at least $500,000 towards roads this year on a recommendation to the various boards. And I think there's consensus internally, and we'll defend it when we need to, but it's part of the pavement management study. There are parts of South Street that really need, because they're so heavily traveled and in such poor condition, that they really would be a substantial benefit if we were to target parts, not all, but parts of that roadway in order to make some substantial progress. But this is a marathon, not a sprint. We have not yet identified a funding source to really go 10, 15 years. The good news, if there is any here, is that with all the economic development in the pipeline, the revenue base of the town should be diversifying and deepening. We should be in a better position to use operating funds to supplement our road efforts going forward.
So the last thing would be the ARPA funds. You said water and wastewater. What about stormwater? Would that work for that culvert thing? Could that be a stormwater project?
So we're exploring some possibilities, Phil. There's a couple of different grant programs.
Yeah, you don't even have to answer it. I just throw it out there as a question. No big deal. Just an idea.
But this is what we do all day, every day, and so when you ask the question, there is an answer. Briefly, there's the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program, MVP. The town has qualified, so we finished the planning process. We are eligible to apply for action grants for stormwater, because stormwater is part of climate change, resiliency efforts. There's a federal program called BRIC. I'll be darned if I can remember what the BRIC stands for, but it really has to do with floodplain management, and we have a couple of areas in the Mumford River that are within the 100-year floodplain, so we might be able to do some of our bridge improvements and road work with that. And then there's ARPA.
Yeah.
Is it the most obvious application of the funds? I'm afraid it's not. I think what I'm not clear on, and I've asked the superintendent of the water department to try to help clarify for me, is when we dig up a road for these wastewater pipes, can we use ARPA funds for the pavement? We would like to have curb-to-curb repavement over those areas where we fix the pipes. That would do an awful lot of progress against our pavement management study if we can dovetail all that together. Obviously, we don't want to do a roadway patch for a major utility work. That creates a real disaster. It's just a question of who's going to pay for that pavement. It would be good if we could use federal funds to pay for it.
Okay. Anything else, Phil? Howard, you had a question, I think.
No.
Anybody else?
No.
Comments or questions? Matt, I have just a couple questions. What's the total funds we're expecting to get from the feds? The big amount was like 800,000 or something?
I know, I told you that.
2.2.
That's what, they were circulating a spreadsheet that said we were going to get that much money. And we kind of scratched our heads and we thought that was a lot of money. The most recent spreadsheet I've seen, our total allocation to the town of Douglas would be closer to $2.2 million.
Okay. And then the idea of a separate standalone ad hoc committee to look at that, that's gone by the wayside now. It's going to be more just departments, correct?
Well, I'm not the be-all and end-all of this. I think the select board is, and we'll see what they want to do.
Okay.
My recommendation, though, is if the eligibility is so narrow that we don't really have a lot of projects to discuss, I'd rather not kick a dead horse. I'd rather just get the money moving towards the project.
Yeah. And then what happened with that lightning strike at the fire station that we had to replace the generator? Was that ever, did we ever get a tally for what that was going to cost? There was that email about a month ago about they had to replace that, you remember? Where do we stand with that right now? Where do we stand with that right now?
I have nightmares every night, Mr. Chairman. I think, let me put it this way. The lightning strike did the typical kind of damage that lightning will do when it hits a building to the electrical system, right? There was good news in that we had a device called a power backup supply device. And it did its job. It sacrificed its life for the good of the rest of the closet. So all the equipment that was sitting behind it, that was being protected by it, was protected. That's the good news. The bad news is, I don't want to dress it up, but I also don't want to be overly critical. The building was built on a budget, okay? And there may have been some things that were missing in the final product. One of the things that was missing is there was improper grounding of the electrical system on the back wall. So when the electricity hit, it fried just about everything that was plugged into the back wall of the building. We're still testing the boiler. We went to a hot water heater there, so the boiler only runs for heat. It's been hot out, so it hasn't kicked on. So we've got the contractor looking at that. The bad news was that what this revealed, this incident, is that there was no surge suppression installed when this generator was installed. So when our generator kicks on over there, it has a tendency to jolt all of the electrical appliances there. And we discovered that that surge suppression might have helped us with the lightning strike, but when the generator kicked on, it also had a negative impact. The generator itself is fried. It has a motherboard, and the motherboard is gone. We're trying to replace that. It's about $1,500 and get rid of the rental generator. Long story short, we've had an electrical engineer do a survey of the building. It's about a $1,500 assessment. And we are way, way, way underpowered in that facility. Some of that is due to the fact that it was a call firefighter department, and it didn't have 24/7 occupancy and all. The other thing is, we all know this, right? We all have devices now that we charge. The fire department's no different. There's equipment on the ambulances that charge from electricity in the wall. There's tablets and phones and computers and everything else, wireless devices. All of these things need electricity. And that building doesn't provide anywhere near enough amperage to support the operations of a full-time fire department. So when we replace the generator, because it's not going to last, we're going to have to upgrade the electrical system in that building. For the moment, the claim is about $6,000, the $2,500 deductible. So in the grand scheme of all of our nightmares with property casualty, this is a small thing.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else questions for Matt? Can you just kind of hang in there, Matt, while we go through the minutes, in case we have a question for you?
I'll do my best.
Or do you have to split?
It was probably going to move on to greener pastures, but the good news was we had many applicants after she took the job, so we'll be getting a replacement very soon.
Okay, thank you. All right,
Going on to greener pastures?
what's that?
The note taker.
Oh, minute taker.
Okay. All right, let's carry on with our agenda then, everybody. We have meeting minutes to approve. They were emailed to you, January 26 and February 9. So let's take a look at January 26 first.
I looked at them already.
It says
Yeah.
at the top, all members were remote, but I don't remember
It
being.
was January.
January.
But were we all? Were
We did a couple
for that
remote
one?
ones.
Yeah, we had,
Okay.
yeah, we didn't start coming back until after that.
Okay. So anybody have any comments or questions on?
These are meeting minutes from January 29?
26, yeah.
26.
It's a little more than 60 days, isn't it?
They didn't have a note taker for a while there, and so she was filling in for more than just
Yep.
our department, to be in fairness.
What date did we get the email?
Today.
Does anyone know?
Oh, 3-4 days ago, I think.
I make a
Okay.
motion to approve the minutes from Tuesday, January 26, 2021. I have read them.
All right, anybody want a
But
second?
these weren't
A second.
Yeah, they were in the...
Okay, so Sandy has moved that we accept the minutes of January 26, and Lynn has seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
I'm going to abstain.
All right, one abstention. Thank you, Phil Land.
I just don't have any info to,
Okay. All right, now
Doing it.
February 9. I read them over and I didn't, nothing leapt out at me, so.
I'm going to abstain from those.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the February 9th minutes.
Okay, Howard moves, we approve February 9 second.
Second?
Okay, Heather seconds, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstain.
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 Sandy Kuipers abstains. And you too, Phil, or not?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, I haven't seen them
So
either.
uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, so 5 of us, all right.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
If you review or if you listen to the meeting online, is there a form they're supposed to dial in or call in? I was listening to a selectmen meeting, and they said something about they did attendance. And if you don't attend a meeting, but you listen to it online, are you supposed to call in or something and fill out a form that says that you know what went on?
You mean for your committee?
Yes.
I've not seen that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was listening to the Board of Selectmen, and they mentioned that on their last meeting. You familiar with that?
Matt, you know what that is or not?
I believe it may be specific to the zoning board.
Okay, thank you.
They're hearing facts on the record.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're done with approved meeting minutes. So before we bring up miscellaneous topics, Matt, is there any reason we need to meet in July as a FinCom? I know Gene's not here, but are there certain things coming up that we need to act on and be prepared for?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not aware of any. I think that everybody should maybe keep their powder dry on this, because I think Jean may want to come back and just give a report when things are settled in her life and with the closing books. There may be some things to talk about.
Okay.
I also anticipate that if we have any kind of formal process around ARPA funds, that we would want FinCom's opinion. So I would say if we ask you for a meeting, it'll probably be after the summer and would be brief and narrow in its definition. Every year we try to get started earlier, and this is no exception. We try to get started with this budget faster this year. Especially the capital piece, because I feel like we go through a lot of process process, and by the time it gets to FinCom, we don't really talk through some of the issues about the financial management of the town. Capital is the one thing we can do early, because I'm not waiting for anything from outside vendors. That's all internal conversation, and that's something we want to put up to the forefront. But in terms of, do you need to meet in July or August, I would say I really don't think so unless Jean has something that she wants to bring up.
Okay. So would this be okay with everybody that I'll be in touch with Jean? And if it looks like we need to meet, I'll be in touch with everyone, and we'll try to get a date. Is that okay with everybody?
Works.
Yeah,
We won't put a date on the calendar now.
sounds great.
Okay. Matt, anything else for us as we get to the end of our meeting?
No, thank you. Have a
Okay.
great rest of your week.
All right.
Thank you,
and-
Matt.
Take care, Matt.
So Carol, anything for the FinCom?
You want to make a motion?
Things are still working on them.
Okay. Well, I'll just go around. Anybody have anything for the group? Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Heather has moved that we adjourn. We have a second.
Second.
Lynn seconds. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
Aye.
Opposed?
No, I said aye. I was taking a sip of.
Aye, aye, Captain.
We are adjourned.
Dick, great first meeting.
Yeah, Dick.